right, topic 2, distribution of natural resources. Lesson 1, non-renewable energy resources, which can be found on pages 56 to 65 in your textbook. Identify and label some of the materials that are being used in this construction project for your Connect It. So in your textbook, you could label iron, wood, or metal. And then we need to pick one of the materials you identified in the photo and explain whether you think that it is a resource that is limited or unlimited. So I chose iron, and other metals are limited resources. There is a finite amount of them on Earth and a finite amount that can be accessed. Natural resources. So a natural resource is anything occurring naturally in the environment that humans use. So examples are air, water, sunlight, soil, metal, so on and so forth. There are unlimited resources. So a good example of that would be wind. And a good word to describe that is renewable. They're unlimited. They're renewable. And limited resources, like metals, that are non-renewable. Okay, so renewable resource. A renewable resource can be used or easily replenished. Sunlight and trees are examples of this. What would be another example? So water would be a renewable resource. Any kind of plant is also going to be a renewable resource. And those are good examples. So water is a good example because of the water cycle. Water is never created or destroyed. It's just changed. So you can have water vapor. As we know, based on the water cycle, we go to water vapor, we have water, and then it's stored underground. So it might move to different places and change, but it's always there. It's always renewable. It's always ready for us somewhere. It's not always accessible, but some of it always is. All right, so non-renewable resource, a non-renewable resource, wow, sorry guys, is a resource that cannot be replaced. This could be because there's a finite amount of the resource on Earth, and we do not have a way to make more of it. Some materials are considered non-renewable resource because it takes them long periods of time for them to form. So things like coal, which occurs due to the decomposition of plants, but it takes thousands of years. So if we were to use up all of the coal, while there will at some point be more coal on Earth, it's going to take thousands of years to get to that point. So let's go ahead and do our reading check. Why is wood considered to be a renewable resource? And the answer is that wood comes from trees, which can be grown year after year. So as long as we don't use wood faster than we can grow trees, the resource is renewable. Fossil fuels. So fossil fuels are the energy-rich substances made from the preserved remains of organisms. The chemical energy in fossil fuels can be converted to other forms by burning them. This energy originally arrived on Earth as sunlight. All right, so coal. Coal is formed from the remains of plants, like I said earlier, that died long ago in and around swampy areas. There are different grades or types of coal. Burning coal accounts for about 30% of the electricity produced in the United States. Unfortunately, burning coal produces pollutants and causes millions of deaths each year from health problems. So here are some types of coal to the right. There's brittle, lustrous anthracite, has more energy than crumbly, dull lignite. So why might one type of coal contain more energy than another type of coal? And coal that is formed under higher pressure might be more dense and therefore contain more energy. All right, so let's do the reading check real quick. What is the original source of the energy contained in coal? Explain. So we just said on the last page that All energy starts from the sun, so that's our answer. The energy in coal originally came from the sun, which the plants used in the process of photosynthesis. All right, coal formation and distribution. Coal only forms under the right conditions. The map shows major deposits of coal around the world. So we're going to circle the 3 continents that have the most coal resources. So we've got North America, Australia, and Asia here. And then why is coal not found evenly distributed around the world? So coal only forms under certain conditions, and it takes a very long time to form. So these factors affect where coal is found on Earth. So those areas had to be those swampy areas where the plants died, if you'll remember, in order for coal to be formed. All right, so here we have just a visual of how coal is formed. So we have the swamp environment that the plants die in, and then they are buried underneath, they compact, they continue to be pushed down and compacted more, and then eventually they'll oh my gosh, they will go under metamorphism, and then the stress causes them to form the 3rd type of coal. So each type creates a different kind of coal. The amount of compaction that happens increases the density, which changes what type of coal comes out. So this is very similar to like with plate tectonics, how we talked about the different movements of Earth, and all of those movements affect the kinds of rocks that we get. Right, oil. So we commonly refer to this as oil, but it is scientifically known as petroleum. Petroleum is made of the remains of small animals, algae, and other organisms that lived in marine environments hundreds of millions of years ago. Because this is a liquid, it can be processed into different fuels. Burning oil also emits a lot of carbon dioxide. This can also be spilled, which can be disastrous for wildlife and water quality. All right, so oil impacts. Oil is often drilled from the ocean floor and transported by ship. Major oil spills can harm or kill wildlife, as well as damaging habitats and water quality. What are the 2 major causes of accidental oil spills, and about how much more oil was spilled as a result of the Deepwater Horizon explosion than the Valdez running aground? So we can look at the location, amount spilled, and causes to answer question number 2. And the answer is going to be that it was about 16 times more oil that was spilled in the Deepwater Horizon as opposed to the Valdez. So in answer to question 1, what are the 2 major causes of accidental oil spills? That's going to be blowouts in wells or blown out wells, and then ship accidents. All right, petroleum formation and distribution. Petroleum has been drilled for all over the world. Wells or rigs are constructed to tap fields of oil hundreds or thousands of meters below Earth's surface, both on land and water. So a large sea once existed in the United States. Shade the area of the country where you think the sea likely existed, then explain your choice. So petroleum deposits are found where seas once existed, so the sea was likely over the area of the country that has petroleum deposits. And you should shade in those areas. And here we have another visual of how petroleum is formed. So 300 to 400 million years ago, we have the oceans with the small marine organisms. And then you can see that the organisms died. They're being compacted into the ground, creating the natural gas. And then to today, where the oil is trapped and we put the rigs up and dig to get it to escape and let it out so that we can use it. All right, natural gas. So natural gas is formed from the same processes that produce oil, and it's found in the same locations. Natural gas is trapped in pockets within layers of rock deep below Earth's surface. Burning natural gases release much less carbon dioxide than burning oil and coal. Fracking is short for hydraulic fracturing, which is a technique used to reach the natural gas. And this involves using pressurized fluids to break layers of rock and force out the trapped gas. So let's go ahead and do our reading check. Natural gas burns cleaner than coal, yet it is still considered a pollutant. Why? So the answer is that because it is still releasing great amounts of carbon dioxide when it burns, it's considered a greenhouse gas itself. We're going to go ahead and skip the math toolbox for now, and hopefully we'll come back to it later this week. All right, nuclear energy. Nuclear power is another non-renewable energy resource used to generate much of the world's electricity. Nuclear energy provides 20% of the electricity in the United States. Nuclear fission is the splitting of an atom's nucleus into two nuclei. This releases a great deal of energy. This energy will turn water into steam that powers a turbine to produce energy. Uranium is the fuel used for nuclear fission. All right, so the distribution of uranium. According to the World Nuclear Association, almost 70% of accessible uranium is found in only 5 countries. We're going to circle the 2 countries with the greatest percentages of uranium resources. So that's going to be Australia and Kazakhstan. Wow, I can't speak. So then we're going to answer the question, what patterns do you observe in the distribution of uranium? So an example of what you could write is a majority of the uranium resources are found on the continents of Australia and Asia. South American countries have the least amount of uranium resources. All right, using energy resources. Fossil fuels are among the most important non-renewable resources for humans. Scientists estimate that we have used close to half of all of the petroleum in the few centuries we have been using it. Pollution. Humans are burning fossil fuels at a faster rate than the resulting carbon emissions can be absorbed by natural processes, such as photosynthesis. This is why the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is now 45% higher than it was just over 200 years ago. Pollution can damage the air we breathe, anywhere to the water we drink. World politics. The uneven distribution of fossil fuel resources has led to political problems, including war. Many countries will dispute over oil wells that may result in a war. During wars, these wells can be burned. That causes added emissions into the air and a waste of the fossil fuel. All right, so reading check. How many human activities affected the distribution of fossil fuels on Earth? Humans have extracted and mined fossil fuels, which has reduced the amount of these resources and has made them less available. I want you to go ahead and independently do the planet. So, household energy use. Use the space to describe how you could determine how much fossil fuel is used in your home, and then make recommendations about how to reduce your usage. All right, so now it's time to do our lesson 1 check. So 1, which fossil fuel is produced from the remains of peat? And the answer is coal. 2, a friend argues that the location of a petroleum deposit is a sign that marine organisms once lived there. Is your friend correct? Explain. Yes, petroleum can only form from the remains of marine organisms. So if petroleum exists somewhere, then it means marine organisms once lived there. 3, how does the abundance of a resource and whether it is renewable or non-renewable affect how much it is used? So an acceptable answer would be, if a resource is abundant and easy to get, it will probably be used until it runs out or becomes harder to get. A renewable resource may be more reliable because it is always available. A non-renewable resource can be abundant and cheap in the short term, but eventually it will run out or be too scarce to remain cheap. 4. What advantage does coal have over wood as an energy source? What is the major disadvantage of using coal for energy? So coal has nearly twice as much energy per unit of mass as does wood. Using coal for energy requires burning it, which releases harmful pollutants into the atmosphere. 5. Why are oil, coal, and natural gas not found evenly distributed on Earth? Fossil fuels form as the result of certain geological processes and take very long time to form. The conditions required for fossil fuels to form are not found all around Earth, so the deposits of these resources are not evenly distributed. And that finishes our lesson 1 check and lesson 1.